Hey everyone, we're going to pick up where we left off in lecture three, part two, looking at the importance of physical activity experience, starting here with abilities. And so first, we just kind of look at what are abilities. We see that they are the building blocks of our experience. Genetic predispositions offer advantages or disadvantages in certain activities. Obviously, our abilities are inherited. So it's something we inherit, these traits that we have. They offer potential in specific activities. So, which would be like someone being really tall, which would be good for like basketball, volleyball. Someone possibly being of shorter, petite stature, someone who has a narrow frame versus someone who has broader shoulders. All these different traits that we inherit, are beneficial just in different activities, but they just offer that potential. They really don't give us or guarantee us anything unless we add practice and training experiences to that. So then we're at this highest level of competence that we can achieve in whatever sport, event, or activity that we're doing. I always like to use the example like you've probably known someone that has a lot of potential for sports. Like, man, they would be such a great athlete based on their height, their muscle mass, their body size, or whatever other abilities they have, but they aren't going to achieve that potential, maybe because they don't really care to, they don't practice enough, they don't train very hard, but they would be like really great athletes if they did. And so that's kind of how I always kind of think about as abilities or these genetic predispositions that offer potential. But it's up to us to tap into that potential if we want to be great at something. We look at this image, or these four images of this different body shape. If you kind of glance at it, you're like, oh, they kind of look the same. But if you kind of look closer, if you look at cycling, for instance, we see to be really good at cycling, we have the narrow hips, smaller waist, narrow shoulders. If you kind of read why is that important? To help transmit power to acceleration, relatively small body limits wind resistance. If you look at the distance runner, so as tall as 5'10", so not overly tall, underdeveloped upper body, undersized arms, relatively narrow pelvis, short legs. Like, why is this important? Body design maximizes power output of the heart and lungs, decreases the work required to support heavier arms and decrease wind resistance. We look at swimming, really wide shoulders, long hands, narrow hips, basically to propel yourself through the water, providing less resistance. And then alpine skiing, knock-kneed, push the weight over the inside of the skis, allowing for easier turning. So all these different traits that we inherit are kind of interesting when you think about what these traits or would offer someone in different sports. So this YouTube video right here at the bottom, I'll attach that to Canvas. So I'll play that in a second. Well, I won't play it, but you can go back and watch that video in a second. It just kind of talks about traits and hereditary. So I want you to think about your own experience. Do you think whatever activity that you're really good at, do you think you inherited that ability, or did you just practice or train really hard to get there? And if you think you inherited it, think about what did your like biological parents do? So were they also like a weightlifter? Did they also play sports that you maybe played the same sport? Do they run? Do they cycle? Do they do anything aerobic? And so that basically, if you have the same genetic makeup background as someone that had a lot of experience in that sport, you may have inherited that ability. Also, think about your siblings. And then if you think, okay, no, there's no way I inherited anything from my parents, think about your practice experience, your training experience. Is that what got you there? Next topic is looking at something that is an intangible quality that really special athletes have. And we usually see this at the very elite levels. So if we read this statement, I'll kind of skim through it. So I want you to imagine a workout that's really hard, okay? So imagine a workout that's really hard, and I'm going to read this, and so you can kind of think about it. So imagine your workout and all your body's critical organs are taxed beyond comfort. So you're really uncomfortable. What your body's doing is sending signals to the brain, kind of telling your body to slow down, to cease, to ease up. Yet, in really elite athletes, they can find that extraordinary ability to disobey those signals when watching these like performance, we watch them like keep pushing and pushing and pushing. It's their ability to push past that pain. For lack of a better term, we call this like having heart. Like that athlete has a lot of heart. Um, every athlete has that ability to dig down deep, find that extra energy that's needed to train the extra lap, to finish first, break the record, capture the medal, to finish that last repetition, whatever it is, and whatever activity you're doing. We push ourselves so hard to this point where we have to ignore the discomfort in our body. And that's usually what gets us to be the best and gets us to the top. And so I want you to think about, do you believe in this? Is this heart something we believe in? Do you believe that we have this ability to just push harder? Or is it all due to like your physiological ability? Like we wouldn't be able to do this if our body wasn't capable of it. Or does this heart actually exist? This pushing past your limits. I don't think it happens every time we work out, every time we train. I honestly think it's something that is occurs in really unique scenarios, really unique instances where there's a lot of adrenaline, that epinephrine pumping through your body, and you just are so in the zone in your sport and your event, and that's when you're able to kind of achieve this and push past how discomfort, how much discomfort your body feels, and like keep going. So yeah, it's an interesting topic to think about. So kind of continuing in these unobservable emotions, we have the subjective experience. So subjective experience means it's based on the subject. It's not objective based on like an object. So it's based on one's personal experience. These unobservable emotions are sometimes said just as important as the physical experience of our favorite activities. So I want you to think about a activity that you really like. Maybe you're not very good at it, but you really enjoy it, or you're amazing at it, and that's why you like it so much. So I want you to think about the emotions that are attached to that activity, the cognitions, the disposition, so the way you think about that activity, your attitude towards that activity, your knowledge about it. How much do you know about that sport, that event? And then the meanings behind it. Why is that sport so meaningful to you? So all these subjective experiences um, really create, I guess, the foundation of why we come back to that same activity over and over and over again. Like, why do I, like, for me, it's running. Like, I love to run. Why do I keep coming back to running? Like, there's got to be something that I'm really connected to with this activity that brings me so much joy. When I was younger, it used to be soccer. Like, I just loved soccer. And I was just drawn to this activity, just drawn to the sport. As I get older, I don't really play soccer anymore. But I think back to those cognitions, dispositions, emotions that were derived from me playing that sport. And so I want you to think about kind of that same scenario for you. So let's think about immediate subjective experiences versus replayed. So we'll do immediate first. So with immediate subjective experiences, and I have this thing at the bottom down here. Think of I don't know if you can see it. Think of a physical activity experience that lives rent free in your head. Okay. That just is there. So what experience just stays in your head anytime you like think of that sport or activity, like what experience? So as I'm going over this, think about that. Immediate subjective experiences is that instantaneous emotion that you get during the activity. And so it's that instant emotional cognitive impression that you experience while you're in it. This statement right here, so I'll read it and then I'll explain it. Awareness and ease of recognition of these impressions improves with experience. Basically saying the more that you do that activity, the more that you play that sport, the more that you do that event, the ability to recognize all of those emotions and connections and dispositions about that activity get better. So we're able to, it improves with experience. So the more we do this activity, the better we are able to recognize our feelings towards that activity. My scenario here is Shalane Flanagan. She was a great runner, marathoner, and this is her first and only ever win was the 2017 New York City Marathon. So her first marathon win ever and only one before she retired. And what do you think? So she's crossing the finish line, and what emotions do you think she's feeling in that moment? How do you think she feels? If you look at her face, you look at this image, I mean, imagine running 26 miles as fast as you can and you win. Um, the relief that it's over, the pain stops, right? All that pain that you're carrying in your body, that whole race, it goes away once you cross the finish line. So that relief that it's over, that I cannot believe I just won this race. I am overjoyed, basically just proud, all these feelings, right? So just kind of think of those feelings. How do you think she's feeling in that moment? My next example is kind of silly. I'm a big Joe Burrow fan, which you'll learn throughout this semester. I talk about Joe Burrow any chance I get. And so we're going to replay this past season. He always gets hurt, right? So this past season was not the best for him. But the season prior, he was like MVP, right, of the league. He had the like most throwing yards, most, passing yards. And he had an amazing season in 2024. And he's had amazing seasons. Anyway, replayed subjective experience, it's self-reflection. So just thinking back. So imagine him thinking back on, wow, how amazing was it that I was like the MVP quarterback for that season. I had the most like passing yards and I was the best. I was the best. Imagine thinking that, right? So this self-reflection. Replay that experience in your mind. So when you replay maybe one specific experience like that one I had you ask about down there, um, what comes to mind? So visual, kinesthetic, auditory. So think about like imagine the scene, imagine your body's movement. That's the kinesthetic. And then the auditory, what are you hearing? So putting those experiences into context makes them even more meaningful. And so, for example, when you put something into context, so if I was just to tell you, like, I won, I was like the first female finisher in my race. Okay. So if I said that I was the first female finisher in my race, you're like, good job, great. Then if I put it into context and say, like, I'm a 34-year-old mom of two little kids, and I still won. Like I still beat the 20-year-olds and I still beat people, maybe who haven't given birth, whatever. But when you put that into context, it sounds a little bit better, right? And so we have these experiences and these meaningful experiences that we recall, and then we put them into context, and it usually makes it even more profound for us. So let's talk about some factors that actually help us to enjoy physical activity more so. Um, First is factors related to the activity. So think about an activity you like, and then think about that activity being so challenging. It's so challenging that you can't do it. Like you cannot master this skill. You try and try and try, and you fail every time. It probably gets not fun anymore, right? If you can't even master it once. And then think about the activity being so easy that you master it every single time, that it's so easy that you're bored, right? We want a balance between that. We want it to be challenging, but we also want to be able to master it every now and then. We want to be able to do it. And then we want to be able to improve on our performance. And that's where the clear goals and the feedback comes in order to do something and actually enjoy doing it, we need a goal. Number one, like what's my goal in doing this? Like what's like the end outcome? And then we also need feedback because I need to know what I'm doing wrong and I need to know how to get better. And when we have this clear goal in mind and we have this feedback, usually we're more encouraged to like master that skill. Competition, whether that's someone else or competition within yourself, usually makes it more fun. If you're pushing against someone, a teammate, an opponent, whatever it is, you're just trying to beat them. You're trying to be the best. And then, or it could be against yourself, like trying to beat a personal best or beat a personal record. Like that competition's fun, just trying to work towards that. So I find those factors to be really helpful. Another one is related to the performer, and this is just your attitude, your disposition towards the activity. If you had a bad experience towards something, like I have a really bad experience like playing basketball growing up. Like for me, I just was terrible. And I just remember getting called on every single thing I did wrong in the sport because I just could not understand the sport of basketball. And so I could not play it. And so my attitude, my disposition to basketball is very much hesitant. I don't really want to play. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't I have a bad attitude towards it during the time I had a bad attitudes towards the sport. But looking back on it, I'm still like, no, it's just not for me. I just have bad experience. So think about a sport or activity where you just don't have the best attitude. And then think about one where you do, where you have the best memories of playing that sport and you recall all the different, I don't know, different experiences that really made it super meaningful to you. And that's, your positive attitude, a good disposition towards it. And then last is the social context. So think about exercising alone versus with others. And these are all preference, really. So I like to work out by myself. Like I used to go to a lot of group exercise classes and stuff. But as I've gotten older, I just care about the workout now and rather not really the social context. And so maybe you like to work out by yourself. Maybe you like to work out with friends. So think about that. The environment. On like non-snowy days, would you want to exercise outside or would you rather be inside? Would you want to run on a treadmill or run in the park? Do you want to play like an indoor sport or an outdoor sport? Okay, so think about the environment. And then sense of perceived freedom. I think this one's big. Is someone making you do this activity or are you choosing to do it on your own? Is it autonomous? We have autonomy when it comes to choosing things, and we can choose the workouts that we want to do. And so your sense of perceived freedom, if it's high, then you're doing it because you want to do it, and that's like your choice. If you have a low sense of perceived freedom, basically you're doing it maybe because your friend's doing it, your siblings did it, your parents are making you, your coach, whatever. But how much freedom do you have to choose that activity? Now let's look at music. Who likes to listen to music when they work out? Probably a lot of us. I really can't listen. Really can't work out if I'm not listening to music. I could, but I really like music. And so, but does it actually improve our performance? And so this here basically just looks at most people listen because it takes their mind off like the discomfort or the pain they feel while working out. But does it actually improve your performance? And so, excuse me, one study examined cyclists doing 10K time trials, so doing 10Ks as fast as you can. And they found that music was more motivating in the sense that the athletes did perform faster. So in the music condition, they cycled faster, but their perceptions of the effort were higher, which means they pushed harder. That's why they were faster, but it didn't make it feel easier, is what the study said. So it wasn't any easier listening to music, but they did do better. And I totally feel that because if I listen to certain songs when I run or lift, like I'm going to push really hard. But it's not going to make it any easier. So technically the music made it harder, but I did better, if that makes sense. So I want you to think about your experience with music and how that kind of makes you feel when you work out. There's a clip here also that I'll post about exercising with music. All right, let's talk about sports watching as a subjective experience. We have two different types of participation. So we have vicarious, which we know when you say, I'm living vicariously through somebody, we are engaged in whatever's going on. So, for example, in this sport, our team is winning. Last night we lost. Like your favorite player on that team, or like your favorite team in general, when they play and we watch, we feel so connected to it for whatever reason. Maybe we just really invested in, one athlete, or we just love the entire team because we're from that city. Um, but whatever it is, this vicarious participation, usually we enjoy watching the sport more so, but not always. And so disinterested sport watching means we're nonpartisan, we're non-biased. We actually don't care about the outcome. We just want to see a really good game. It doesn't always result in less enjoyment. I think for most people, it depends on what sport they're watching. So like I can watch just like a random football game or random soccer game. Like if you know the sport, which we'll talk about in a second, I can watch random those random games. And I usually, especially with like European soccer, I don't care who wins. I just want to see a really good game. Sometimes with football, we usually feel more vicarious about like certain players or certain teams. But for like the Super Bowl, maybe our teams didn't make it to the Super Bowl since we have the two teams going now. And we'll probably still watch the Super Bowl, right? But we probably will pick a team, but we also want to see just like a really good game, right? So disinterested sport watching doesn't always result in less enjoyment, but it can depending on the sport. It just means you're nonpartisan, you're not biased. All right, lastly is looking at factors that affect our enjoyment of sport watching. So when we watch sports, what affects our enjoyment? Number one, I think is big is knowledge of the game. We really have to understand the game. We have to understand the rules. We have to kind of know what's going on in order to appreciate it more, to appreciate the athletes working so hard towards this one outcome. I know like in football, like I don't know everything about football. I'll still be like, what was that call for? Like why I didn't see a face mask. I don't know what that means. So there's still a lot of stuff for like certain sports I'm still learning about. So I feel like the more your knowledge increases about a sport, the more likely you are to engage in it. Like my husband, so a lot of people probably have no idea the rules of soccer. Like they don't understand soccer, they don't get it. But for me, that's the sport I do know. And so for me, I enjoy watching just random soccer games because I have the knowledge of the game and what's going on. So think about that. What knowledge you have in certain sports and if that affects your enjoyment. Next, like we already talked about, is feeling towards the competing teams. Usually you're going to like it more if there's a team competing. We all have certain teams that we like, certain teams we don't like. And so that's a big one too. And then last is human drama of sport competition. We have bitter rivalry versus friendly competition. We like drama, right? Even when there's like a fight on the field, we like rewind it or no, we like go back, I guess rewind it and watch it again. Hold on, wait, hey, one more second.
One more second.
One more second. Bitter rivalry, friendly competition, like I said, usually increases our interest in the sport. And then what was I say? Oh, one thing for the quiz, one thing we do not like is when someone gets hurt. Okay. So when someone gets hurt on the field, that is something that we don't enjoy watching. It's kind of because we usually can relate to some injuries and we're like, gosh, that's awful that happened. And so if you see that in the quiz, we do not like it when people get hurt. Here is your quiz review that you can take a picture of and start preparing. It's just over the first 3 lectures, okay? All right, so that's it. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later this week.